it was just it was stupid. He makes so many stupid decisions. Then he gets on the whale and then he's on the shore and he does his stupid hero pose. He's like,
Welcome back to another episode of Nerds and Rounds, guys. It's your host, Sebastian.
and your boy Tone from across the hall.
And we got one guy to sub for Law today. We have...
Hello, my name is Guy. I'm
wanna,
also that guy.
He is that guy. We want to wish Law well. Law's just taking some time off. Law, we miss you, brother. I hope you're watching The Boys because you're coming back on for the next one.
Yes.
So we're going to recap what's been going on with the first 4 episodes of the Boys. So tell me how you guys have been feeling about this season so far.
It's been fun. Coming back from, the way the first season ended with us finding out that Becca is alive, it was really interesting to see how they were going to go with the season. I read the comics, so I know the beats of the story, but a lot of the things they've changed. They've changed plot points. They've gender swapped a number of characters. A number of characters are dead that are alive. So I like that they're just taking the story. They're taking the major plot points, but just making their own path. That being said, we only have 8 episodes this season, and it felt like it took a bit of time to kind of ramp up to get where we're going. And we're already at the midpoint of the season, so it's kind of like, where are we going with season 2?
Oh, yeah. So with that, we already see that in the first 3 episodes, we're introduced to Kimiko's brother. How did you guys feel about Kimiko's brother's character?
I mean, it was a bit of a waste. I mean, they bring her brother in to bring in the super villain or the super terrorist, however we want to use it. And they want to flesh it out, but it just felt like a waste of a character. I think, especially for Kimiko's development, I like that they used him and they used his death to kind of give her that vengeance against Stormfront, which is kind of alluded in from the comics where they have their own altercation. But it just felt there was I felt there was more there because we were so curious about Kimiko's past for him to just be snuffed out, because we didn't really get anything from him. We get the VHS in the first or second episode. They pick him up, they fight, they talk on the boat, and then he's killed. So, I feel unless they do more with these terrorists that have been infused with Compound V, it just felt, I think it was a bit of a waste. And if they were going to kill him off, to at least maybe give him another episode.
Guy?
I actually agree with a lot of that. When they introduced that Compound V was being used for more than just the people that we know, it was like, okay, they're definitely going to introduce someone who's related to somebody. I was like, oh, okay, the one person that we kind of know the least about. And that was the way to do it, to learn more about them. You had to get that connection there. So you learn more about. So really, the character is the only reason why they exist, is to make the character we already know more. We know more about them.
Yeah.
So it was just like, it was more like that person was like a plot point, character development, than like their own separate character.
Yeah, he was.
That's how I felt.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with both of you guys on both points. Like, I wanted to see more of like his power set, but because like he was able to knock some crap out of Homelander with his powers, but it just, I don't know, it kind of like it showed Kimiko's past, like to
That's
develop
it. That's what
character.
he was there for.
And 2, he was also there to showcase the whole thing about how they used him as the whole terrorist thing, because he wasn't the terrorist that was blowing up the building.
Yeah.
They blamed it on him when in reality it was Stormfront, who we saw when spoiler, killed him. It kind of in a way pushed the fact of, wait, we're seeing Stormfront as this outspoken character in the first 2 episodes. Then we get this 3rd episode and she just like goes balls to wall, killing everybody in the projects. And then she kills him after he saves his sister, actually, which is another thing, because I remember him saying that, like the guards were going to beat you when you stole the food and I took the blame for it, and they beat me. And it was kind of reminiscent of that foreshadowing for me when he saved her from Stormfront, but then he ultimately paid the price. And
but here's the thing. Did he actually save her though? What's her superpower?
Don't I mean I know her superpower has some
Who's superpower?
chemicals.
I think it's more like she has healing. She's got like the Logan
Heal.
effect.
She heals.
And
So what was he saving her from?
Well,
Yeah.
it's like he was still being Big Brother to her
I get
after
no,
the whole thing.
100%. But he knows
But
she can heal, right?
I
Like
mean,
but
we
we're
don't
assuming.
we're assuming because we didn't see that dialogue
Yeah,
of them talking about their powers because
yeah,
I don't think Kimiko knew she heals until she fought Black Noir in first season. Like
yeah.
she's
but
got like
that's
that crazy
That's a fair
strength.
point. That's a fair
Got
point.
like that crazy strength and everything. But we don't never really see that healing factor come up because she hasn't had a near death experience. So we don't
Yeah,
know if she knows that that's her power. It kind
yeah,
of just happened, and then she came back to consciousness, and she knows
yeah,
she could just rip limbs off, and she's super
yeah.
strong.
The thing is, when he jumped, she could have been like, "You're good, go. I can heal." None of that shit happened.
but
So
also
really, it was kind of like for naught.
but again, it's like we don't know the extent of her power. Like if she would be able to heal, like kind of like Wolverine in terms of a
You're
death-like
right.
injury.
You're right. But she took 200 hits to the head
Yeah,
from A-Train, which was like enough to kill someone hardcore.
but
Yeah.
she's also super.
Yeah.
But, let's talk about the Deep's emotional journey
Oh God.
and who
Yo,
is
it's
Eagle
one of the
Archer? What is
funniest
Eagle
things,
Archer
dude.
planning?
His church, the Church of Scientology, or Patton Oswalt as the voice of the Gills. Just there's
So good.
there's so much.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we see Eagle Archer introduced, and you know that that he's up to something, and then the Deep just going through his emotional journey. It's really interesting how this character is developing, and that also takes into episode 4 when they're interviewing the many wives of who would be possibly the wife for what was it, the Deep, to get him into the was it back into the seven. So
Yeah,
like,
no,
how
this
did
is all just a riff of Scientology in Hollywood. Like there were rumors that they kind of did this to Tom Cruise, and they were like looking for the perfect wife for him when he was in it, or if he's still in it, who knows?
Mm.
I don't know. I don't know. I feel like they're going through this whole thing with the Deep, and I don't know where it's going. I like the actor who plays him, and I think it brings some depth to the character when the character originally is very bland. He doesn't do much at all in the comics. He's doesn't have any sort of effect. He's just like this dude with the diver's helmet on and does nothing. So it felt like they're just kind of
old school Aquaman?
I guess he was really bland. He didn't do anything. I'm telling you, he did nothing in the comics. So they're just taking this. They're taking a different effect with him. So I think I don't know. I don't know what's the deal with the Deep. He keeps having these conflicts, and he had this breaking point when he was at the water park, and then he's fighting against the church and not wanting to do it because he thinks it's bullshit. And then he wants like one specific wife. I don't know. Is he going to become part of the Seven? We know that Homelander is like, whatever about you, and he doesn't like his gills. He finds them disgusting. So there's that kind of complex that the Deep has, and then the fact that Starlight's never going to forgive him for what he did to her, rightfully so. And I don't know what they're doing with him. I just can't even predict.
I think they showcase that he's an emotionally broken character. But the fact is, like, you can't condone what the character was doing, but it's like at least like when he went on that magical herb journey, that's what we'll call it, and was tripping balls and was like talking to his gills. It's like he wasn't, comfortable in his own skin, especially when he saw like he took the gills as a deformity. And then also like, what do you? It's like the fact that you found out that Compound V was given to you, so you didn't have a choice about this, which I also think was a little bit what's messing with his psyche too. And it just the character is really, he's a really effed up Aquaman. And
100%. Because every time he tries to save one of these sea creatures, they always die.
oh, the what was it, the whale? How did you
Yeah.
guys feel about the whole thing? He was using the whale to block the boat.
It was just it was stupid. He makes so many stupid decisions. Then he gets on the whale and he's on the shore and he does his stupid hero pose. He's like, and was like, yo, my man. And then he's just watching them ram the boat into the whale. It just again, it just feels like I don't know what they're doing. I just don't know what they're doing with him.
My personal opinion is like the first season was to show that superheroes could be bad. Like not all superheroes are great. So it was like really more about the powers and then what one could possibly do with those powers versus like what you see in the comic books, right? Everyone is like really trying to use their powers to the best of their ability. Here, the whole kind of premise was, what if they didn't? What if they were all flawed and just did whatever they wanted? So that was first season. Second season, to me, is showing the human condition in the superheroes. Every single superhero is flawed. Like you got the Wonder Woman hack where her thing is she's super strong, but she's super vulnerable, like because she really loves this woman. You got what's his name, Homelander, who is because he's had everything his whole life, he's super spoiled, and then like as we get into his character, he's super twisted, like the way he drinks the milk, his relationship with that
Yes.
woman. Like
Yeah.
he's someone who's never been told no because he could have kind of basically whatever he wanted. But that's what happens to a human, what could happen to a human if that were to happen. And then the same thing with Aqua Guy. He was cool and he had this really cool fish power, and now he's going through this whole thing about having body dysmorphia, which is like seeing your body as something ugly. So like that's a human thing. So they're just adding human conditions to the characters to give them um,
To make it more
character
human.
development.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
Yeah.
more character development.
it's like you're seeing them dig deep into their psyches.
But how do you do that? You do that by
It's
giving them flaws,
yeah,
right?
I agree with that.
And then you give them the flaws, and you keep giving them the flaws, and then they do the worst thing with those flaws. Like instead of trying to do better, they're just because they don't know how to try to do better. They just keep messing up.
Well, that leads back like even like with the falls that they're having, which it's interesting with A Train now having heart conditions because of like
Yeah,
using his super
Yeah.
speed. It's like
Well, that's
what
because
is he gonna do?
he was ODing,
Yeah.
doing, using so much of the compound V after just as a steroid, to try to stay up there with the seven and to keep the endorsements and to keep his lavish lifestyle and everything. When we real and I think they talk about it. I think in the behind the scenes where like he has like no money, so when he goes to Starlight and he's like, "What do you mean this can whole screw up our whole thing?" He has no money, for this lifestyle that he's living. It's all a facade, and
Yeah.
he's not going to have anything because if he loses the seven and he's not the fastest man in the world anymore, he's losing every single one of those endorsements, the cereal, the action figures, the energy drinks, and he's just gonna be, he's gonna go down the same route as Pop Claw and just be a D-lister or B-lister.
Mm-hmm. And it's like that. Like he's a prime example of like what would happen if like a superhero was treated like an athlete in a way, an athlete who didn't really take control of their money situation. So it's like
yeah.
he needs this, and it's like it, and you see that in episode 4 where it's kind of being taken away from him, especially when like his speed rival now is introduced, which is going to be interesting if how if they're going to touch up on that interaction with them later. Is he going to do something? Because it's like I guys says, the mental state of these characters, some of them will do whatever it takes to be at that level. Like when A Train killed his girlfriend Popclaw, and you saw that, which gets into Starlight's character when she brings that up to threaten him. It's like her interactions have been interesting this season so far with how she's interacted with Huey, A Train, and Gecko.
I think she's morphing, and she's playing the game. She's playing the game of what she needs to do. She came into the seven so bright-eyed and so naive to everything because she is the quintessential storybook comic book hero and wants to save the day. And then everything is thrown in her face with the when the sexual assault by the Deep, and then just kind of seeing what's going on and being involved with Huey, and
It
now
was Homelander in the comics, right?
it's Homelander, A Train, and Black Noir
In the comics,
in the comics. It's the three of
that do
them.
that to her.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's crazy.
yeah. So
Continue, sorry.
I don't know. It's all good. and now she wants to be the hero, but she can't because of the situation she's in and the organization that she's in, because the organization itself is not letting her be a hero because they dictate everything that she's about. So she thinks and she plans with Huey to blackmail and get the Compound V, and the only way to do that is to blackmail one of her friends. And she realizes at the end of the day that no one's her friend when she tells him that. There aren't any allies, because it's all just, everyone's just out for themselves. Like what, Guy had mentioned, all these heroes taking for themselves and just kind of living with no rules. Like Gecko, sure, he's a low tier hero, but he's working at Vought, and then he's pimping himself out just to get extra cash because he can do that.
The one thing I wanted to say about Homelander, the last thing was, it's so interesting. Season 1, he was the most powerful person, and now he is the most powerless. He's lower than Deep right now. Like, Deep is getting a little bit more confident about himself, and Homelander is not confident about himself. At the end of episode 4, we think that he's more confident, but I think it's just more of a state of madness versus confidence. But I love that they're making the most powerful superhero the most powerless person.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
How do you guys feeling about Stormfront?
Well, just to kind of to talk about Stormfront, we should address who Stormfront is in like the comic and like what they did. So Stormfront in the comic is considered the first superhero, because they do mention how Vought was created by a German scientist. So there's some element of the comic there, because there's a lot of, they do a little bit of the backstory into World War II and all that. But you find out that Stormfront's one of the first soups. He's a Nazi. He's part of Nazi youth, and they use the testing and all the research, and I think even some of the DNA, if I recall correctly, into creating Homelander. And so we move into the future of the comic books, and Stormfront, who's this really strong character who uses lightning and flies around, do all this stuff. He never makes it to the 7 because he never changes with the time. He is literally a Nazi. He's super Third Reich, super racist, super he's got the Nazi symbol on his back and his cape, and he stays as a leader of a second-tier group called Payback. And they even allude to the fact that he was the reason why the levees broke during Hurricane Katrina for the comic book. So when I found out that Stormfront was going to be in the 2nd season, I had a feeling they weren't going to make Stormfront a Nazi, or a full-blown skinhead, because that it wouldn't make sense, and I don't know how it would work. And and I think the first thing they did was they gender swapped the character. So you're already trying to figure out, okay, well, how are they going to do this? Because usually most people, when you think of Nazis, you think of a cis white male who's bald. You think of American History X, pretty much. So they're not going to do anything like that. So they get Aya Cash to be Stormfront, but I knew she was going to have some kind of racist undertone. It's got to be there. That's the whole thing of the character. And they even have some of the elements in the costume. I don't even know if you notice her belt, the eagle on her belt is like the Nazi eagle. If you want to take a look at it.
I didn't notice that. What I noticed in the imagery was the fact that she has the iron-plated American flag right here.
Yeah.
That was kind of reminiscent to how the Nazis wore their armbands right here. Which it's showcased in issue 3 in episode 3. But go ahead.
Yeah, and even Stormfront. The name Stormfront is the name of a Nazi forum, internet forum that was back big in I think 2006, 2007. I don't know if it's still around. It might be still around, but it was taken down. So we knew she was going to be a racist character, and I was interested in how they were going to do it, and it didn't. They took the racist of 2020 and just pumped it full of adrenaline. Like, homegirl comes from Portland, Oregon, and she's being very nationalistic, talking about aliens coming over the border, talking about the super terrorists coming over to attack their lands. And then but you miss that if you're not looking for it. If you don't know about the comic, you kind of miss that. You just think of her being patriotic and not nationalist.
Just being someone who's just open
about it, because she's she already did the thing that got some people comfortable in the fact that she was fighting back Vought and all their policies and how everything was being done, getting people really comfortable with Stormfront, saying, hey, she's awesome. She's talking back to the man or stuff. Because I saw this on Twitter. It was hilarious. Just seeing people like, oh, Stormfront's the best. And then episode 3 comes and it's like, I'm wearing my clown makeup. So they ease you into it to liking her, and you don't think about nationalism. You think about patriotism with her. And then she goes to the projects and she busts in, and Kimiko's brother has not killed anybody. And she looks at the father and just shocks him, throws him against the wall. And then she then kills the family. And then I guess, some people could say, oh, she can't leave any witnesses. I'm like, yeah, well, she didn't have to kill the first guy. And then she throws the other dude out the window for just looking at her. And then she's flying up and she's destroying the whole building. Then she kills her brother and then says what she says about him. And it just kind of clicks. And it's like, yo, this chick is racist. And even like, and I had read this on Reddit, like someone had pointed out, she has not said a word to A-Train.
No.
Like there has not
didn't
been
even know. Yeah.
not one interaction between her and A-Train. She's had, interactions with Starlight, with Maeve, definitely with Homelander, and even the Deep when they're at the whale has said nothing to Homelander. I mean, to A-Train, and it's kind of like biding her time because, it may come off as they haven't had a chance to talk because she's the new girl on the team. But when you know about her now, it's like she's purposely probably not talking to A-Train. Like, unless she absolutely needs to. Because like she said, she's changed with the times.
But what about them frescoes? What's the deal with the fresco?